So, you start at the top. Go ahead and talk about your amber clearance lights on your truck and trailer. Group it. My amber clearance lights on my truck and my trailer, properly mounted, secure, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, not bent, broken, or cracked, and working properly. You get the two corner ambers and the front truck. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, you go to your headlight assembly, left and right. It's properly mounted, secure, it's not been broken or cracked, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws, it's clean, clear, not cracked. It consists of a high beam, low beam, amber multifunctional light, which serves as a left and right turn signal, four-way flasher, running and clearance lights. On the side, you have an amber DOT reflector, which is clearly visible. Okay? Then you come back to the front of the truck and look underneath it. You're looking for puddles of liquid or any drips, anything leaking or puddling. Okay? Once you talk about that, you use 3 points of contact. 1, 2, 3. Open the hood. Go to the driver's side. Because on our sheet we have to talk about fluid and air leaks. So we're going to go to the air hose. The air hose is properly mounted, secure, no abrasion, bubbles, or cuts, and I don't hear any air leaks. Okay? After that, you're going to start right here at the engine coolant reservoir. It's properly mounted, secure. It's not bent, broken, or cracked. It's not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's not leaking, and it's filled to the proper level. After that, you're going to go to the oil filler tube and dipstick. They're both properly mounted, secure. They're not bent, broken, or cracked. They're not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. They're not leaking. To check the fluid level, I would pull the dipstick out, wipe it off, stick it back in, pull it back out, and make sure it's filled to the proper level. After that, back here behind the frame, we're going to talk about the steering components. The first component is the power steering pump. There's a hose right here that leads back behind the frame to the power steering pump. It's properly mounted, secure. It's not been broken or cracked, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's not leaking, and it's gear driven. After that, you're going to go ahead and talk about this upper steering column or shaft, whichever you're comfortable with. It's properly mounted, secure. It's held on by 2 U-joints. Then you're going to talk about the power steering gearbox. It's properly mounted, secure, not been broken or cracked, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's not leaking. It's gear driven. Above that, now you talk about the power steering reservoir. It's properly mounted, secure. It's not been broken or cracked, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. It's filled to the proper level. It's not leaking. Okay? Last but not least, the lower 3-piece steering linkage. Properly mounted, secure, not been broken or cracked, not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. Held on by 2 castle nuts and 2 cotter pins, keys, whatever you want to say. Okay, because that's the castle nut and cotter key right there. Okay, that's the steering system. The next is the suspension. You have the leaf spring mount and the leaf spring and the shock absorber. They're all properly mounted, secure. They're not bent, broken, or cracked. They're not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. The shock absorber is not leaking. The leaf springs, I have 2, so none could be damaged. If I had 4, 1 could. Okay? Now we're going to talk about the brakes. We only have to talk about the brake hose. The brake hose is properly mounted, secure. There's no abrasion, bubbles, or cuts. It's not leaking. Now for the brake drum and brake lining, which are right back here. The brake drum and brake lining are properly mounted, secure. They're not bent, broken, or cracked. They're not missing nuts, bolts, or screws. There are no illegal welds or damage to my brake drum. My brake lining has no bluing, glazing, or any grease or other brake contaminants. So now we've covered the brakes and the brake contaminants. Now we go to the tire. Very important. We have the inside, the top, the outside of my tire. It's properly mounted, secure. It's not leaking. There are no abrasion, bulges, or cuts on the sidewalls. The tread. We're going to talk about condition first. The tread is evenly worn. It's a steer tire, so it's virgin rubber. It cannot be recapped or retreaded. It's inflated to the manufacturer's specification. The tread depth is no less than 432 seconds. Now, we're done with the tire. We did the ICD, inflation condition depth, which are the criteria to get the point for that tire. Now we're going to talk about the rim and the lug nuts. The rim and lug nuts are properly mounted, secure, not been broken or cracked, and missing nuts, bolts, or screws. My rim has no illegal welds or damage. We describe it exactly like we did the brake drum. No illegal welds or damage. All my lug nuts are present. None are missing. There are no shiny threads or rust trails to indicate looseness. Okay, now we've done the tire, the rim, the lug nuts. We're done with the engine compartment. We're going to talk about this multifunctional light. This amber multifunctional light serves the same purpose as the amber multifunctional light in the headlight assembly. That's all we have to say. We don't have to do left, right, turn, four-way clearance, right? We can describe it like that.
Okay.
Now we have to talk about our mirror. Our mirror is properly mounted secure. We're going to talk about this twice. Once on the ink tab, we're talking about the glass. On the outside, we're talking about the mount. It's properly mounted secure, not been broken, cracked. I'm missing this bolt screws. That's all we have to say about this mirror mount. Our battery box, properly mounted secure, not been broken or cracked. I'm missing this bolt screws. If I was to open this, all the connections will be tight. There are no frayed wires to cause electrical arcing and no corrosion. My depth tank, my two fuel tanks are properly mounted secure, not been broken or cracked. I'm missing those bolts or screws. They are filled to the proper level and not leaking. My gas caps, if I was to take one off, it will be held on by a T-bar and safety chain. All right? Before I get to coupling, I'm going to talk about the frame. The frame of the tractor and the trailer. They're both properly mounted secure. They're not been broken or cracked. I'm missing those bolts or screws. They have no illegal welds or holes. Okay? Now I'm going to talk about the coupling. The red is the emergency line. The blue is the service line. The green is the electrical line. They connect the tractor to the trailer. They're properly mounted secure. They're not been broken or cracked. They're not missing those bolts or screws. My air lines have no abrasion, bubbles, or cuts. They're not leaking. My electrical line has no cut, torn, or frayed wires or exposed wires to prevent arcing. My air lines are connected to the trailer by two glad hands. The glad hands are not leaking. They're properly mounted secure. They're not been broken or cracked. They're not missing those bolt screws. There's a rubber gasket that has no abrasion, bubbles, or cuts. My electrical line's hooked up to the electrical box. I'm going to talk about my apron, my fifth wheel skid plate. This is the apron. This is the fifth wheel skid plate. They're both properly mounted secure. They're not been broken or cracked, not missing those bolts or screws. The fifth wheel is properly greased. There is no gap or daylight between the apron and the fifth wheel. My release handle and internal safety latch is properly mounted secure, not been broken or cracked, not missing those bolts or screws. It's in the lock position. If it was in the unlocked position, it would be out. Okay? Now I'm going to go back here. I have enough clearance between my tractor and my landing gear to make turns. I'm going to talk about my kingpin and my locking jaws. They're back underneath here. You can't see them, but my kingpin is properly mounted. My kingpin and locking jaw are properly mounted secure, not been broken, cracked. I'm missing those screws. My locking jaw are clasped around the shank of the kingpin. That's coupling. Okay? I'm going to talk about my DOT reflector on my trailer. It's properly mounted secure. It's clearly visible. It's not cut, torn, or frayed. I want to talk about the landing gear, my landing gear, the sand pad, the crank handle, the cross members. They're all properly mounted secure, not been broken or cracked. I'm missing those bolts or screws. The sand pads are in the up position. The crank handle is in its cradle. Okay? This amber multifunctional light serves the same purpose as the amber multifunctional light right there on the cab of the truck. Okay? Back here, the only light that's not on is the ABS light. It's properly mounted secure. It's not been broken or cracked. I'm missing those bolts or screws. It's off. If it was on, it would indicate a problem with the trailer ABS system. My red marker light is properly mounted secure, not been broken or cracked. I'm missing those bolts or screws. Now, I have to go back because I forgot the tractor tail lights.
Back here.
Tractor tail lights are properly mounted secure. They're red in color. They're not bent, broken, or cracked. Not missing those bolts or screws. They serve as my tail lights, my brake lights, my four-way flashers, my left and right turn signal. Okay? And normally I talk about them before I do the clearance, but I forgot. Talk about the tail lights because they're all lights. Okay? Now we go to the back. lights, they're red in color. They're properly mounted, secure, not been broken or cracked, not missing those posted screws. They're working properly. My DOT reflective tape is properly mounted, secure, clearly visible, not cut, torn, or frayed. And guess what? My trailer tail lights are red in color. I would describe these as I did on my tractor. That's pre-trip.
Wow.